An active morning continues across the region. David Murphy here with an AccuWeather update. Heavy rain pushing through the region, and we have yet another issue with a strong thunderstorm down south. This one looks to me like it might form into a problematic storm a little bit later on. It's in Montgomery County, but we have a brand new tornado warning, and this one is just on the southern edge of Kent County, Delaware, and it's pushing up toward Dover, Delaware. If you're in Frederica, Woodside, and then Dover, Delaware, you definitely want to be wary of this storm as it has a possible tornado connected with it. And again, with all of these storms, if you have the option of getting into a lower floor shelter of some sort, an indoor closet, or a basement's even better. I know down close to the shore, a lot of the places don't have basements, but this is a severe thunderstorm that might be producing a tornado. It's about the fourth of these warnings that we've had and about the third in southern Delaware. And this one is moving up toward Harrington and then toward Woodside and eventually toward Dover, Delaware. Smyrna, if it maintains its current trajectory and strength, could also be included. There's also a flash flood warning in some of our northern and western suburbs, but of course the big issue will be that tornado. Flash flooding, though, definitely causing problems on roads through Montgomery County. Parts of Chester County, as you just saw, parts of Bucks, and now pushing into Delaware. If you are in that tornado zone, though, down to the south, we want to remind you that it's important to seek shelter, go to the basement or a closet or an interior hallway, avoid any windows. This is coming up from the south, so if you don't have the option of getting into an interior hallway, being on the interior of a north-facing room is better than being down south in the direction where that tornado is coming from. You definitely want to stay indoors and move indoors. Future Tracker 6 showing you that this is going to be a rock and roll day all the way because there are the chances of additional showers and heavy thunderstorms and strong damaging wind gusts as Isaias goes through the region, and then it looks like we're over with by about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Nonetheless, we do have a tornado warning in Kent County, Delaware, another potentially strong storm in parts of Montgomery, Bucks, and the Lehigh Valley, and there we go. That storm, I saw this earlier, and now I'm seeing it again. That storm in the north is now showing on Storm Tracker rotation, and that red rotating circle is showing that it's getting a little bit closer to the ground. I do think this has the potential of forming into a severe thunderstorm. Whether it produces a tornado is not a guarantee, but definitely some lightning strikes with this. And in the case of this northern storm, again, this is north of Lansdale, moving just to the west of Doylestown and to the east of Souderton. Percy, more or less in the zone here with heavy rain, and possibly areas like Bedminster farther north. If you're in Lou Corner, Silverdale, Grier's Corner, that's probably Greer's Corner, Blooming Glen, Dublin, Percy, areas in Bucks County in particular, Culp's Corner, Plumsteadville, and Irish Meeting House, Deep Run, Hagersville, Keelersville, Pipersville. I know some of these are small communities you haven't heard of, but we want to make sure everybody in those small towns is aware. This is a thunderstorm that I would definitely be careful of, as it does have. And this is now produced a tornado warning, Karen? And this is, well, we were on it just a little ahead of schedule, but this is now a tornado warning. Karen, can you do the storm track and move it up just a little bit right around where we're seeing that rotation, and we'll get a better blue box. So 2 tornado warnings right now, one in Kent County, Delaware, that's coming up in the direction of Dover, Delaware, probably another 10 minutes away from Dover, but if you're in the Dover area, you want to be indoors, lower floors. If you have a basement option, definitely take it. And then the second tornado warning that's just popped up in Bucks County, and that is because of this rotation that we're seeing and a notch right there. This would be the portion of the storm that I would think would have the best chance of having a tornado. And this one is heading more or less up toward Bedminster at this point and to areas to the east of Percy, pushing away from Doylestown. But if you're in Dublin or any of these points just north of Doylestown along 611, those would be the areas that could produce a possible tornado out of this and some strong damaging winds. Also might have some hail in that purple core here, and definitely a lot of heavy downpours. So again, we're tracking towns that may be in line for this one. It would be Culp's Corner, Plumsteadville, Irish Meeting House, Deep Run, Hagersville. And Karen, if you hit storm and then your track edit button will be at the bottom, you can go ahead and pop that up there. Hagersville, Deep Run, Keelersville, Pipersville, all of these areas at the time on your screen, that's roughly at the time that you're going to see that potential storm. So there's the one tornado warning up to the north, and there's the other one one down south pulling up toward Dover, Delaware. Another closer look down there. Harrington, Woodside, and Dover. A second tornado warning in Delaware is also down now, pushing up through the coast of the Delaware Bay in towards southern Kent County out of Sussex County. It looks like the town of Milford may be involved there. This is a very active system. If you hear thunder, essentially the idea is get indoors, lower floors, because we could have one of these thunderstorms erupting into a severe storm and possible tornado maker just about any time this morning and perhaps into the early afternoon. That's a flood warning that we've got going on right now. This was just posted in Tredyffrin Township, Aston, Lower Salford, Richland. We've had at least a couple of inches of rain falling in those areas, and we're also looking at, of course, those strong storms. Again, one tornado warning in Bucks County, moving away from Doylestown up toward Dublin right now. Another one down in Kent County, Delaware, pushing more or less toward Dover. If you are in one of the areas covered by the severe thunderstorm and the possible tornado, you definitely want to go to the basement, closet, interior hall, avoid windows, stay or move indoors. These storms are coming from the south, so it's better to be on the north side of an interior wall if you don't have a basement option or an interior closet. Again, Future Tracker 6 is moving they're moving that rain in through between now and 11 o'clock and really giving us heavy downpours up until 1:30 from Isaias. And it looks like by about 4 o'clock that rain's over. Back to the radar view. Again, right there is one of our severe thunderstorms, which right now is putting a tornado warning in parts of Bucks County. There's another one down in the southern portion of the region around Dover. And now we've got even more rotation picked up in this latest storm that's just popping up in Bucks County. Remember I noted Dublin. That is one of the areas that is in line to receive the southern portion of this storm. But now we've got another notch, and there's a possible second area that could be producing rotation and perhaps a tornado. And county, you want to be indoors, lower floors, in a basement if you possibly can right now, because that storm is definitely headed in your direction. It looks like Percy's. I would be more concerned with areas due north of Doylestown around 611. Karen, maybe we can zoom in a little bit on Storm Tracker and get a closer view of some of the areas that are highlighted by this current rotation. And in the meantime, I've still got that storm box going for you, highlighting the approximate arrival time of the southern edge of this storm system. And then as it pushes up, we've got even more of that. So now we're trying to go in closer to give you a better idea of where this storm system is headed. It does look like right there around Richland's probably a little too far to the west, but it does look like Hilltown perhaps, and then Holland. There's Easton, way up there in the Lehigh Valley. It's possible that this thing could go straight up toward Easton, but this would be the area of big concern, right around Hilltown and Soulbury. And I think up in here, Karen, we need to see this part of this, bring it down a little bit, and that would be the area that I think we have the biggest issue. And perhaps if we go in a little bit tighter, right in on that area, we'll get some more communities. You see all the lightning strikes occurring with this. It does look like Plumstead is very close to this, and East Rock Hill as well. Do you want to jump on the air real quick, and maybe I'll go ahead and do some storm tracking? 2 thunderstorm warnings now, 2 tornado warnings from severe thunderstorms that are potentially producing thunderstorms, and Karen's got a little bit more on this over at the green screen.
Yeah, and we continue to talk about the weather safety with this, the tornado safety. This is a time to avoid the windows, go into the lowest floors in your house, interior hall or bathroom. Definitely time to cover your head as well. Anything you can do. Hopefully you've been listening to these warnings and you've been already staying inside, but this is the time for heightened awareness with this. As we look at Storm Tracker 6 on this wider view with our multi-sweep scan, we already had a few tornado warnings earlier, and now we're looking in Bucks County and in Sussex County as well, as we can kind of see these tornado warnings that have been popping up through the area, and some very heavy rain, some notches in these cells. We've been talking about the rainfall rate. I mean, the rain is coming down so steadily, so fast, and now we're picking up some radar indications of rotation within some of these storm cells, and that's the main area of concern right now. As we take a wider look, this is all stemmed from Tropical Storm Isaias, which is just tracking and kind of booking up the coast inland, and that's why we're seeing these problems that are spawning not along the coastline, but it's tracking right up through I-95, so sort of the core of our area getting hit with this. That tornado warning for Kent County in Delaware and Bucks County in Pennsylvania. The tornado warning asking everyone to seek shelter. We saw that moving up to the north. It's moving up through Dover. We're watching this closely as we continue to see these tornado warnings evolve, and the latest one's happening right now in Kent County, Delaware, and in Bucks County as well. As we take a wider look at the tornado warning, you see not only in Delaware, but in Bucks County. Even before hitting our area, this tropical storm spawned 6 tornadoes earlier this morning south of our region. And now we're watching very closely because the worst is yet to come as we watch some of that heavier rain and the strongest winds hit. We've been saying 10 to 3, and that still looks likely, even though we're already seeing these problems spawn up. So here with Future Tracker, you can see some of that heavy rain pulling right through the lunchtime hour, racing out of here. The storm itself moving about 28 miles an hour, the tropical storm. By 4:30 in the evening, we're going to be out of this. But in the meantime, it's that tornado safety. You want to avoid the windows, go to the lowest floor in the house, interior hall, interior bathrooms, the best place to be right now. So if you're outside and you're listening, maybe you can grab your phone and head into the bathroom, head into somewhere interior where you can protect your head and be careful. You definitely want to avoid the windows right now as that tornado warning for Kent County in Delaware and Bucks County continuing right now with the National Weather Service. With our multi-sweep scan, you can see all through the area. We've got the heavy pounding rain, but the concern is really for where we're seeing the rotation, and that's where we're being picked up right now in Kent County, Delaware, and in Bucks County. And Dave, I know you continue to track exactly. Earlier, we weren't really seeing a hook with these radar echoes, but we are kind of seeing that one right now.
Now we are. The one that we've got in Bucks County in particular, Karen, has a much more better definition to it. There's the tornado warning right now in northern Bucks County pushing north. There's the second warning pushing toward Dover. There's the third one coming up through Sussex County, Delaware, that could theoretically cause problems in South Jersey. The closer view shows you now a cluster of tornado warnings in southern Delaware. A third one has now popped up, and this is pushing toward Maryland, just south of Hartley. And again, there's that second one in Dover, Delaware. The other one down there farther to the south. Then Bucks County, right north of Doylestown, extending up to areas just to the east of Quakerstown and Percy. That would be a spot where we have a potential tornado. Karen talked about how these new cells that are popping up are showing better definition. And right there, you see rotation automatically highlighted for you to easily spot the location of the storm where it looks like we have the best chance of rotation making it down to the surface. This is a possible tornado. Even if there isn't a tornado making it to the ground, strong gusty winds are very often associated with signatures like this. But underneath that, you can see that little notch. See the little V going in there where the air is being drawn into the storm. That's where an updraft occurs, and that's where you tend to get tornadoes. So again, we are tracking this storm cell moving through places like Deep Run, Hagersville, Keelersville, Pipersville, Bedminster between now and 8:32, only a few minutes away. If you're in any of these locations that we're highlighting, you definitely want to make sure you're indoors, lower floors, preferably in a basement. That's the place to ride out a possible tornado. Elephant, Weisel, I should say, Ottsville, looks like Stronghorn, and again, Oppelsbach. We're really highlighting the smaller communities up in Bucks County that some of you may not have heard of, but obviously in the case of a tornado, you want to know if you're in one of those, barrel of the shotgun, basically, spots. There's a live update on the air. Storm Tracker will do that for us. Harrow, Bucksville, Amity, Revere, Pleasant Valley, Gallows Hill, and Ferndale between now and 8:47. These would all be areas where this potential tornado-producing thunderstorm is moving. It takes about a half hour to go the distance of this red arrow, but it looks like in these cases it could be a matter of minutes before that storm system drives that strongest part of the storm up in your direction. The update now on radar shows that the notch has moved a little bit north, and it could be that some of this rotation either falls off the map or moves with it shortly. But again, this would be the area of the storm just to the south of Harrow, where you would think that you would have the best chance of a possible tornado out of that. Strong damaging wind gusts certainly possible along this, and it looks like Riegelsville is just at the northern tip of this. Should this storm maintain its current strength and movement, probably about 20 minutes it would be up toward the Riegelsville area. So if you're in these areas of Springtown, Riegelsville, I should say, and then definitely in the area of Bedminster or anything in between, that would be ground zero for this strong thunderstorm. And again, the blue box tracking the communities that may be in line for this storm and where you need to use extra caution. When there's a tornado warning, it doesn't happen often, but you definitely want to be indoors on the lower floors and playing this very, very safe and smartly. Rainfall rates have been really heavy. We've got a lot of flash flooding going on across the region. Right now, you're looking at at Dover. And again, some of those strong storms down south that are potentially producing some tornadoes. One of them coming up out of Sussex, just to the east of Milford. Another one coming into Kent County out of Sussex County, Delaware, and pushing its way north toward Dover. That's another possible area that could be looking at a tornado right now. And there's another one right over here near the Delaware-Maryland border that looks like it's pushing off toward the eastern shore of Maryland. But down in these areas south of Dover, all the way down to the Kent County southern line with Sussex County, that's an area where you want to be indoors, lower floors, because we also have the potential of severe weather and a potential tornado down there as well. It's this batch of storms right there pushing up through Dover that are giving you the problem. And then, of course, we have that second cluster of storms pushing farther and farther north through the area. As of right now, we still have that tornado warning in northern Bucks County, pushing up close to southern Lehigh and southern Northampton County at this point. You see the cluster of tornado warnings down south that I just described for you. This is a very heavily populated area as we go up to the north, and we do have a concern there. Not that we don't have a concern down in Harrington and Woodside and Dover. This is another one that is coming up into these areas that could potentially be giving us problems. The second one is over in Sussex County, closer to Lewis, Delaware, and Milford. That one is coming up the coast from the ocean. And then there's that third one that I talked about heading out from Delaware pretty quickly south of Hartley, Delaware, and then over in toward Maryland. And after that, it looks like it wants to pop up into areas south of the Susquehanna River in central Pennsylvania. Going up north, there's the new update on the Bucks County tornado warning. This storm has continued to move north, and as it has, the National Weather Service in Mount Holly still has a concern that it has rotation attached to it, and it does look like areas to the east of Quakertown definitely have a potential problem with that. There is the rotation on the storm. Lots of recent lightning strikes. This is still in place. We're still looking at that more or less a notch pattern in through here. And as you see that storm continuing to go up north, it's these areas in the blue box that we have the biggest potential for potentially seeing strong damaging winds and a possible tornado. These signatures that we pick up on radar don't always guarantee the tornado, but it is a possibility. And you can see that as that track continues to go due north, that is the best chance of problems. Heading straight north toward some of these locations that we're talking about. Bedminster's very close to this, might even be right in the middle of it right now. And then as you go down the list to places like Oppelsbach and Bucksville and Amity, Pleasant Valley, some of you aren't right in the line of this, but you're close enough that we do want you to be careful. You've got heavy rain falling right now, and there could be some strong outflow winds from those heavy downpours as well as a possible tornado. So this is the one that we are really equally concerned with, as well as those down in Kent County, Delaware. But right now you are seeing rotation on the Storm Tracker 6 view right now, and that is the radar's automatic way of alerting you to a storm system that could be producing strong damaging winds that make the surface, and also a possible tornado. And there is a tornado warning associated with this. Started out farther south. It has been adjusted, and when the Weather Service does that, they're basically acknowledging the fact that the storm is moving north, but they're also telling you that as it has moved, it's still maintaining these possible severe weather categories or characteristics. Again, if this is a tornado, you don't want to be outdoors for it trying to take a picture. You do not want to be on an upper floor of your home or business. Lower floors away from windows, up to the north side of the building or the home. If you don't have a basement to go into or interior hallway, it's better to be on the north side along an interior hallway. If the storm is coming up from the south like these are, you don't want to be in a southern exposed room, but the best idea is to be in the basement as this comes through, or an interior hallway or closet that doesn't have windows, just in case a tornado does wind up coming right at you, and then you have flying debris and glass. You don't want to be exposed to that, obviously. Again, this severe thunderstorm potentially producing a tornado, and Karen, you'll give me an update, I'm sure, whether or not there's a change in that status, but right now it still looks like there is.
Yeah, but there was an eyewitness to the tornado in Maryland where a car was overturned, multiple eyewitnesses.
All right, Karen telling us that in Maryland, which was one of that cluster of thunderstorms that we showed you and possible tornadoes, that there was a car flipped over and there was an eyewitness who confirmed a tornado. So that was the one in Maryland, and that's very close to the others that we have down in southern Delaware. Again, rainfall rates have definitely been heavy enough to produce flash flooding on roadways. This is that cluster of storms south of Dover that continue to move north. We are looking at the movement from south to north, I should say. There's that severe thunderstorm with a tornado warning attached to it, continuing to push closer and closer to the Lehigh Valley. And then down in Dover, Delaware, it looks like that cluster of storms is getting closer and closer to you down south. We still have that trifecta of tornado warnings, one in Dover. This is the one that's crossed the border into Maryland, and this is probably the one that Karen is referencing with an eyewitness saying, yes, there was a tornado, yes, there was a car flipped over. Could have also been this one, as there is a fourth tornado warning active right now, a little closer to the Chesapeake Bay. And then this one coming up out of Sussex County, Delaware. It looks like it's to the west of Lewis, Delaware. You're close in Lewis, but probably missing it. Areas to the north, though, definitely still in the bullseye. And this one really a concern as it heads up through communities south of Dover, Delaware, and gets very close to Dover itself. The Air Force Base there, of course, and lots of military personnel housed in that area. And then, of course, we still have that tornado warning up in Bucks County as well. So taking a closer view, again, if you're in Woodside and then Dover, you definitely want to be indoors, lower floors. If you're in the vicinity of Hartley, Delaware, or areas of Maryland just outside of Hartley, that's another spot where you want to be indoors, lower floors. Same thing in Milford, Delaware, as this second or third, really fourth if you include the one over closer to Baltimore, tornado warning. This storm could also be producing problems for you in the vicinity of Milford. And then if we go up north, you still have an active tornado warning, now moving north of Percy to the east of Quakertown and moving more or less up in the direction of eastern Pennsylvania. It wouldn't be too much longer before it makes it there if it maintains this severe storm status and the rotation that's giving us that idea of a possible tornado. And now the latest look on this storm does show that the rotation marker that Storm Tracker was showing, indicating a potential severe wind gust down at the ground and a possible tornado, has come off the map. However, these come in and out of the picture. They tend to do that every 3 or 4 minutes, and it's possible that rotation will reappear. We've already seen that once with the storm system. In the meantime, for now anyway, there is still a tornado warning, and I'm still seeing a little bit of a notch right in there north of Harrow, and this is moving more or less up to Regalsville, which is on the northern tip of Bucks County, not too far below eastern Pennsylvania and Northampton County. Springtown would be another area of possible problems. And again, we've still got that blue box up. Ottsville, Strawtown, Oppelsbach, it looks like Bucksville, all of these towns still in the potential eyes and sights of this storm that could be producing a possible tornado. And even if it isn't, it would still be producing the potential for severe wind gusts. Still waiting to see if rotation comes back on that one. But for now, we have the tornado warning, and we're waiting to see whether or not that expires or whether there's still an issue. Kennersville, 8:55 would be the rough arrival time of this. Springtown, probably around 8:56. Some of these communities are a little bit farther over to the west of where we think the tornado, if it exists, most likely is located. It's interesting, though, that some of these storms, especially in Bucks, Kent County has expired its tornado warning, but we still have an active warning in Bucks County, and we still have an active one in Sussex County moving up toward Kent near Milford, and there's still one pushing into the Maryland area out of areas south of Hartley, Delaware. There is the wide movement. There's the storm we've been tracking up in Bucks County, still has a tornado warning associated with it, getting close to Northampton County. There's Dover, and it looks like that Kent County storm no longer producing a tornado, but a couple of other warnings. We'll go back there and get an update here in a moment, and we'll take a look. Yeah, it does. You know what? It looks like that tornado warning over near the Chesapeake Bay has now expired, but I've still got 3 of them hot on this graphic, and usually this automatically takes them out, Karen, when they do expire. So any more information and specifics you want to give me, just shout them out. But for now, we're still looking at a tornado warning coming up toward Milford, Delaware. Severe thunderstorm that could be producing a tornado there. It does look like it's to the east of Lewis, Delaware, but coming up on places like Slaughter Beach, those communities right along the Delaware Bay. Woodside and Dover, you still have to batten down the hatches there, as it still looks like a thunderstorm that could be producing a tornado is headed in your direction. And then this one really seems positioned mainly over in Maryland and then popping up across the Pennsylvania border potentially over the next 20 minutes or so, assuming it maintains its current rotation and strength. And there's always the chance that more of these pop up. We are dealing with a tropical storm today. In the outer bands of these storms, that's when you usually see see these sudden flare-up tornadoes, and this one has definitely delivered a punch. We've had about 4, maybe 6 warnings between southern Delaware up through an earlier one in Delaware County and West Philadelphia, and now this one up in Bucks County. Again, this is still an active warning. It still looks like it's from areas just to the northeast of Percy, to the east of Quakertown, up toward Regalsville in Bucks County, and more or less pointing in the direction of Easton, Pennsylvania. If you're in areas like Palmer Township, close by to Easton, or anywhere south of Easton, Pennsylvania, I would definitely be keeping my eyes on this situation and making plans to get down into those lower floors should this thing continue to course in your direction.
Yes, Bucks is expired.
Bucks is now expired. All right. Well, this is no longer a tornado producing thunderstorm. In these areas, you're looking at possible lightning, maybe a little gusty wind, but it looks like the tornado itself is now expired in Bucks County, the tornado warning. And we'll just take another quick look at the movement of the precipitation as it comes up from the south. And this hasn't expired yet, but it probably will on this graphic. Karen is reporting that this one's expired and the Kent County storm may be Now, say again?
Kent will continue until 9.
Kent is continuing. Okay, so areas around Dover, you still have...
Sussex and Bucks are expired.
Sussex is now expired. Bucks is expired, but this one coming up to Dover, Delaware, still is giving us a problem. All right, Karen, I tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to move Storm Tracker 6 down to this area if we can and maybe shift that storm track. And that way we can get a closer look at the physical makeup of the storm and get an idea of whether or not it, like the one up north, has notches in it and has clear areas where you're looking at the potential for some inflow and some uplift that would produce a tornado. But right now, this one does look like the active tornado warning pushing out of Sussex County into Kent County, Delaware, and this storm making its way gradually up toward Woodside and eventually Dover. And if you're in Smyrna, Delaware, that could also be a spot that potentially gets impacted by this storm. In the very least, you're going to get heavy rain. There could be some strong straight line wind gusts from any of these thunderstorms, but in this case, it might also be producing some spin up and perhaps a tornado. Again, the areas of concern would be areas south of Woodside, Delaware, pushing up toward Dover and the Air Force Base and all the military personnel there. The Dover Speedway is right up in here, and then we've got Smyrna, not just in the warning yet, but if this storm would continue to progress to the north and continue to show evidence of rotation, it's certainly possible that Smyrna and areas around the Speedway would be impacted by that. Let me go ahead and fast forward, and again, the Bucks County tornado warning, it appears, is expired based on what we're seeing over there on the computer. Here's the closer view of that possible tornado-producing thunderstorm down to the south of us, moving north of Milford and then going up toward Dover. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of notch activity here. There's a reverse one there, but I'd really be more interested in it coming in from the other side. But in any event, this is a storm that could potentially producing strong damaging wind gusts, maybe a tornado out of this. Spring Hill, Roseville, looks like Scrap Tavern Crossroads. I know some of these places I've never heard of, and my in-laws live down in southern Delaware. I drove through here all the time up until recently. Frederica at 850 is another town that might be hit by this, but of course, in the interest of hitting all of these small communities where there might be some viewers tuning in, I want to make sure that their small towns are included in this list, because if they're right in the bowling alley to get this, you want to make sure that they are aware. Heavy rain falling in all of these places. The question is whether or not you also get some strong damaging wind gusts and a tornado, and it's probably this portion of the storm that's moving north and giving you that potential problem. If you're in the neighborhood of Lexington Mill, Little Heaven, Webb Landing, South Bowers, Delhaven Estates, some of these are actually communities that we're talking about, housing developments. Bowers Beach, Warren Landing, these would be among the areas that could be contacted by this storm and potentially have a problem with a possible tornado. Again, we've got Karen around the corner tracking this live. If we see an expiration on any of these warnings, we'll let you know right away. Warren Landing, Paris Villa, and Meadowbrook Acres, Magnolia, Delaware, London Village, and Locustville would all be some of the small towns and areas just south of Dover, suburbs of Dover, that could be impacted by this severe storm as it pushes to the north. It would be this area of the storm, we would think. If it did have a tornado, it would probably be down in there somewhere. And if there's strong damaging wind gusts, it could be coming up at you from these areas just to the south. So again, the blue box live tracking the towns that may be in danger of this. Again, we are talking about possible tornado, and some of these have come in on the map and then gone out. We do have a tornado watch across virtually the entire region today, and this extends into the afternoon. So anytime there's a rumble of thunder and anytime one of these tornado warnings pops up and then may go away, it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't going to be another one popping up. It's one of those really weird days where you have a tropical storm's outer bands coming through, a pretty typical location to have tornado formation and severe thunderstorm formation. The tornadoes in these outer bands of tropical systems generally don't last all that long, nor do they grow into, say, a category 3, 4, or 5 major tornado. But you know what? An EF0, an EF1, an EF2 is going to be bad enough, and you definitely do not want to be outdoors experiencing any of that. We in the past have seen plenty of serious property damage and trees down, even from those lower scale tornadoes. And that could be what we have here. In any event, as long as this storm is coming through, throwing these heavy rain bands through the region, there will be the threat of severe weather. The tornado watch in effect through the rest of the morning into the afternoon across the entire region. And the focal point really has been southern Delaware to central Delaware this morning, with a couple of things popping up briefly up in southeastern Pennsylvania. The latest in Bucks has expired about a hour ago. We have one in Delaware County and parts of lower Montgomery County and parts of Philadelphia. That one expired as well. Lexington Mill around 8:54, which is only about 5 or 6 minutes away. Might even be quicker than that, continuing or considering that the storm is moving toward the north. And in fact, guys, we might want to adjust that storm track just a little bit and raise it up, maybe closer to around this area where we might have a better chance of seeing some of the bottom edge of this severe quality of storm. There we go. Thank you. So this is an updated watch box. Little Heaven, Delhaven Estates. Breezewood is a new one that just came up. Paris Villa. Some of these the same locations that we tracked before, but you can see how the times have changed and we're getting closer now to the most severe portion or the potentially strongest portion of the storm getting to these locations. Meadowbrook Acres, Magnolia, London Village, Locustville, Florence, all between now and about 8:53 in line to potentially see a very close passage from this storm. And in some cases, we could be looking at a tornado. This is a tornado warning producing storm, which means that radar has indicated that there is rotation in this storm that might produce a tornado. We have had one spotter report of a tornado on the ground from a different storm not that far to the west from this one in Maryland that flipped a car over on its roof, according to reports, and a funnel cloud was spotted in that one. This one, it's rotation being shown up on the radar that we're tracking, and again, it is moving toward the north, still more or less in the direction of Dover, Delaware, which is a fairly heavily populated area, a lot of military personnel there. We've got the Air Force Base there, and a lot of communities right around Dover, as you would expect, as people don't always live and work right next to the base, but they might be a little bit farther to the south or north. So a cluster of communities potentially affected by this approaching storm. Lexington Mill, Little Haven, Delhaven Estates, Breezewood, Warren Landing, Paris Villa, Meadowbrook Acres, Magnolia, London Village, Locustville, and Florence would be among the towns in central Dover or in central Delaware near Dover, most of these just south of Dover, that would be among the next communities that have the potential for seeing the arrival of this strong storm, which could be producing a tornado. Hideaway Acres has just been added to the list there, as well as White House Landing. So that's the big ticket item that we have right now in terms of active thunderstorms that could be producing severe weather, including a potential tornado. Turnkey has now been added to the list at about 8:51, as well as Browns Corner and Brookfield. These are all clusters of communities that could be hit by this storm. Right now, you're getting driving, drenching rain. It's just a matter of whether or not we also add to that strong wind gusts. I want to go ahead and take a little tour around the region. Now, here's the wide view of that heavy rainfall that's been falling in the area of these thunderstorms, and some of this scooting right past to the west of Dover and to the south of Dover, north of Riverview. Not only do you have the possible severe storm issue down in this part of the region right now, but there's also definitely a potential for flooding on the roadways. You've got clay soil down there in Dover. It's flat. There's not a lot of places for that water to go, and definitely piling up. There's that former tornado watch producing storm that's really on the move now, moving through Easton and getting north of the Lehigh Valley at this point. And based on that darker shade of orange and red, this would really be the focal point of heavy thunderstorms and heavy rain right now. Not that the rest of the region doesn't necessarily have it. And now the graphic has updated so that we do not have the tornado warning in Bucks County any longer, but we definitely have this one in Kent County, Delaware, pushing up toward the Air Force Base in Dover. And that second one that we believe might be the storm where we have a spotter confirming a sighted funnel cloud and tornado and damage to a car flipping over onto its roof. Karen, if you guys hear anything else back then about spotter reports or anything that you can tell us along those lines, that would obviously...
Trees down along Rehoboth Beach. Traffic lights are out in the area.
From where the earlier tornado warnings were.
And Rehoboth Beach, yes.
At Rehoboth Beach, which is right down along the southern tip of this landmass. Lewis is right around there and right at...
Flash flood warning for Kent County.
All right, flash flood warning for Kent County, which is this same area. And that's no surprise given that heavy rain that we've been showing you on Storm Tracker 6 Live double scan. Dover, Woodside, not only looking at the potential for a strong thunderstorm that could be producing a tornado. Same thing with these guys over here in Maryland. But you're also looking at flash flooding and active flood warnings in that area. Again, going up north, we do not have the tornado warning there any longer. As we take a look at that latest storm cell coming up through, this is storm relative velocity. And Karen, Chris, have you guys noticed anything going in close on this? We have not either. On earlier thunderstorms, even the one in Bucks and an earlier one down in Delaware County, we were looking for signs of gate-to-gate shear, which is something that we look for in our radar signature that would indicate strong winds coming to the radar and away from it. We may be using Fort Dix. Dover might be a better radar to pick that up here. But either way, we are basically looking at a lot of wind pushing away from the radar site. Nonetheless, there is still an issue with potential radar signatures that the Weather Service is still concerned with, and they may want to let this go for a little while longer. Okay, so this is the Dover radar, and now it really looks like everything is going toward the radar, and we're not really seeing any red dots in there, which is that shear that I'm talking about that would be of interest to us. And it's hard for me to tell, but that might be a little bit of that red next to the green right there, maybe a little bit there, and that would be that other system that's over in Maryland. All right, well, there's the heavy rain that's producing some flash flood warnings right now in areas south of Smyrna, down toward Dover, Delaware, and again, we still have that thunderstorm that could be producing a tornado coming straight up toward Dover and maybe sliding a little bit to the west-northwest. And we're getting a new track put on there right now for you so that you can get an update. And it did just expire. Okay, the tornado warning has now expired in Kent County, Delaware. Heavy rain will be the big issue there. Hey, obviously a tornado watch still in effect across the region until very likely into the middle of the afternoon, or at least the early afternoon, definitely for the rest of the morning, and it's only coming up on 9 o'clock. So we are looking at this point at the potential for more of these active cells producing more problems with severe weather. All right. More active weather potential later in the forecast period as we go through this morning and into the afternoon. And there's that wide view again showing you the heavy precipitation coming up through Dover, Delaware, over toward I-95 by Edgewood and Maryland, and now parts of South Jersey picking this up too. Millville beginning to pick up a heavy cell, and Cape May County really seeing some heavy rain pop in. A lot of this over the Delaware Bay, but it'll be over Cumberland County before too much longer as this starts to pop up. And we are definitely looking at that heavy rain. No surprise that there are warnings in place across the region. Karen Rogers, you're going to spell me and talk more about the rain.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. You know, and we're talking about tornado safety as well, because this is the beginning of the day of our concerns and not the end. So when this happens, we want you to get ready and be prepared. Avoid your windows. Go to the lowest floor in the house, interior bath or hallway, because Storm Tracker 6 Live with our multi-sweep scan showing a lot of rain through the area. This is a tropical system, but we're just now starting to get the soaking rain in Cape May, in Sea Isle City, not quite in Atlantic City and Surf City just yet, but the rest of us have already gotten that heavy rain. We saw some of those concerning cells that caused earlier with the tornado warnings in Bucks County, down in Delaware. They have just expired, so we're seeing that expire now. But the rain rates, how much water on the road, I think the next step for us is to be so careful traveling out because you have so much water on the roadway. As you can see, some areas of purple indicating a couple inches of rain an hour if one of these cells sat on top of you. And the heaviest is yet to come because we're watching this center. You can kind of see the spin in the atmosphere with Tropical Storm Isaias tracking up the coastline, not off the coast, but right along the I-95 corridor. And that's why we've seen so many problems up ahead of the storm. Often tropical storms do spawn tornadoes. That's what we have seen. And the ones in Delaware have just expired. And we have the one in Bucks County that expired as well. But we want to quick show you Future Tracker 6 showing the heaviest rain, some more of the concerns just beginning. We're looking at 10:30 this morning, and we see some of these cells building in this area as the storm system gets close. We've been saying the worst time period, 10 to 3. Even though we've already had several tornado warnings in the region, the worst is still yet to come with the heavy rain and the wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour. With some of these storms, I was reading the reports, we had cars flipped over. This is the worst time to be in a car. That's why we've been telling people to stay safe, stay home. Even if you're in one of these areas, you're not getting the heavy rain. And we're looking at right now that heavier rain that'll be pulling into Lancaster, to Reading, to Allentown. This is at lunchtime, a time when maybe people will be riding out. And, you know, I had people on Facebook Live saying, you know, Lehigh Valley, I'm going to get hard hit by this. And yes, in Bucks County, we already had a tornado warning because, again, it's tracking the center of the storm right up the I-95 corridor, not coming in off the coast. So although we have some of the strongest winds in the northeast quadrant, which would be off the coast, that heavier rain is in the city and north and west, as we'll continue to see straight through lunchtime. Then we watch at 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and it's racing on out of here. I mean, it's already moving at 28 miles an hour. So when it comes to our area, it is going to get out of here, and we're going to see situations improve through that. In fact, we may end the day with some breaks of sun, but certainly we have some concerns right now, David.
Yeah, we do. And in fact, that tornado warning in Kent County has now been extended up through Smyrna and is now pushing into southern Newcastle County, Townsend and Middletown affected by this as well. We still have the one in Maryland, but our concern, of course, is a cluster of thunderstorms that are producing some potential problems up around Dover, but now another cell pushing towards Smyrna, Middletown, and Townsend. And as we take a quick look at radar with this, that is the tornado warning. Seek shelter immediately in any of these locations. We are actually seeing a little bit of that rotation. You're seeing red next to green, and that's the way the radar tells us that some winds are going away from radar, some are coming to it, and right in there, you're really seeing some of that shear, and that would be an area where we would expect to see a potential tornado. And this is probably moving to the north at this point, and how about that, heading right toward Dover. It looks like if you're in Wedgwood, Cooper's Corner, Lafayette's Corner, Crossgates, Morris Estates, and Sherwood, again, down in Kent County, Delaware, this looks like a possible tornado, and in these locations, you definitely want to be indoors, lower floors. If you don't have a basement or you don't have an interior hallway, the best advice I can give you is that since this storm is coming from the south, huddling against an interior wall on the north side of the house would be the best advantage. But really, basement is number one, and an interior hallway or closet far away from windows as you can get, the better there. There is the rotation that we're seeing. This is in the vicinity of Lebanon Road down in Kent County, Delaware, South State Street. Again, these are areas south of Dover, Delaware, not too far south from Dover. And this is actually a snapshot that we got a couple of minutes ago, so it could